Cinema Worms.
Discussing everything from Grima Wormtongue to the Shy Halib.
I'm Sabib.
And I'm Linz.
And this is Cinema Worms Podcast. So before we start talking about Urchin, I have a bit of a teaser for you, Linz, that there's going to be a, just like with I Swear, in this film, there is a Game of Thrones connection.
Ooh. I'm like, wait, can I guess it?
You won't be able to guess it.
Oh my god, a challenge laid? Really? Because I haven't looked up...
Oh, wait. I'll give you a hint at the appropriate time.
Okay. All right, do that.
So this
the lore is deep.
The lore
is so deep.
We'll see if you get it.
Okay.
So this is the directorial debut from actor Harris Dickinson, who is a, young. I'm like, oh my gosh, so young to be
young.
Really successful as an actor in a lot of super interesting films, from Triangle of Sadness to Baby Girl, to now writing and directing a really impressive first film. So, as I was saying, for my stomach was growling, Harris Dickinson wrote this film and actually ended up acting in it in a sort of secondary role when an actor dropped out. But the main character is played by Frank Dillon. He plays Mike, who is a homeless young man in London struggling with addiction, poverty, and general dysfunction. Other actors in the film include Okezi Moro, who plays Simon, a benevolent stranger that Mike meets in the beginning of the film. And as Mike goes throughout his journey, he's encountering these sort of friends, employers, social workers who are meant to help him, including actors Megan Northup, Karana Kaimchuk, Shona Marie, and Amar Wakad.
Also, slight shout out for because Shona Marie is half Scottish, half Jamaican. Represent!
Yay! And Amar Wakad, you might recognize him from various American films and TV shows, like an Egyptian actor, and I recognized him from Rami. So, Mike, he, in the beginning of the film, is in the throes of his addiction and basically sleeping rough is kind of what you call it here.
Yeah.
And homelessness. And when he encounters Simon, the stranger who wants to help him out, give him a little money and food, he beats him up and robs him and is immediately jailed. And this is important just to know in the beginning of the film because he's going to go to jail yet again. We don't know much about his life. We are sort of thrown in the midst of it, but we glean these details that this has been his circumstance for a while. And when he gets out of jail, he's clean, and we sort of follow him as he tries to navigate in the world again, trying to maintain sobriety and work, but facing challenges over and over, just as you see these qualities in him that sort of want to strive for betterment, for mindfulness, for just a better existence. Then we see his inability to cope and his sort of inner pain and reactivity and general dysfunction just, lead him to kind of crash out and burn and fall back into bad habits. So I wanted to tell you a few facts about Frank Dillon. But this is where the Game of Thrones connection comes in.
I remember him mainly as young Tom Riddle.
Yeah, he was in Harry Potter.
Was he in Game of Thrones?
No, he wasn't.
I was going to say...
His father was.
I knew that... Oh, yeah, Stephen Dillon, who plays Stannis.
Oh, there, bringing in the facts!
You think I don't know Stannis Baratheon?
I mean... I didn't know you were going to recognize his name.
One of the Baratheon boys. He's literally King Bobby's brother.
And played Thomas Jefferson in John Adams, which just watched.
As well.
And
but Stannis is a really interesting and terrible character in Game of Thrones.
Absolutely. So, gosh, father, like son. And Frank...
I can't believe you thought I wasn't going to know that.
Dang, you got it right away.
My lore is that's baby lore. That's for baby watchers. Give me something good.
And his mother is also an actor, Naomi Wertherner, who is in actually Slow Horses.
Oh, okay. Your
she's
favorite.
British Afro-Jamaican. So, what were your thoughts? I'll stop there. What were your thoughts on the film?
So I really enjoyed this. There's a lot to say about it, but I first want to say the moment, and I think I knew I didn't know there was going to be an assault in the
Me
beginning.
neither.
But I did know before you and before anyone else in the cinema, because the era that I grew up in was a little rough, shall we say. And I have a spider sense for everything because, you had to. And the moment that Simon said, like, I'll go and buy you some food, and Mike says, I know a place just round the corner, my brain went, never go to a second location. And I know that's a serial killer thing, but it applies here. And then the second that you see, like, the next shot is of them starting to walk under a kind of
I
an
was
underpass.
concerned at that
Yeah,
point.
I would have literally, I felt myself push back in my chair. It was an instinctive, physical, oh my god, stop here. You don't go into this dark place with this dude. You don't go into a dark place with any dude. Like, just don't.
The naivete.
Yeah, no. This poor guy, and I'm like, oh, just because you're bigger than him, you think you're fighting. This is just, yeah, men being chill. I'm like, don't be chill. People can still hurt you.
So heartbreaking,
Anyway,
right?
so,
That this
yeah.
act of empathy that this young man so needs is also immediately
Yes.
negatively reinforced.
And I think that is sometimes why I find films that deal with addiction so hard to watch. You are watching someone make multiple choices, and they're often the choices which sabotage other people's lives and their own lives. You kind of want them to make better choices, but at the same time it's really hard. However, I really, really liked Urchin. I think that Harris Dickinson has done wonderfully here. I think he's made an excellent film. If this is what he's making now for his directorial debut, I am so excited to see what he makes next. Like, wow. And one of the things I like very much is Mike doesn't always make bad choices. There are times when he really does try, he's like, you can see a temptation and you see him visibly try to move away from it in multiple places. You see him try to resist the temptation of being like offered drugs again or whatever, things that might make him backslide. You see him, try to act well and learn new skills and listen to his meditation tapes, and he really does try it really hard. And I think there's something to be said for that as well, is it's not just, oh, it's his fault, like, which I think a lot of it kind of boils down to in a lot of films, is like, look at the choices that this person's made, it's their fault. But the circumstances can enact pressures on you that in a moment of perhaps weakness or vulnerability, you might take that. I think we forget that it is a vulnerable thing. He is considered a vulnerable person, and they do bring that up. Like, there are things that impact on him that may not impact another person in the same ways.
Yeah. He has struggles that he needs support with, and you sort of see the system failing to give him
repeatedly.
Like,
that was really hard to watch, and he's like trying his best, and people they're helping him, but they're not really helping him the way that he needs a lot of the time. So excellent performance from Dylan, and I'm really excited about Harris Dickinson.
Yeah, it's not a sentimental film.
No, the opposite of
or
I
even
Swear,
like
right?
gritty poverty porn. So
no.
It exists. I mean, looking through the reviews, they mention a lot of filmmakers like Ken Loach and Simon Baker and whatnot.
Want to shout out to one of my top films for the century so far has been Ken Loach's and Laura Carrera's On Falling.
Oh, which I've yet to see.
So good.
Just a shout out, we are going to be doing several episodes shouting out and naming our favorite films of the century, which is the last 25 years. So you have that to look forward to.
My God, you'd think there would be less for a quarter century, but in fact there are so many. It's really, really hard to narrow that down.
Oh, yeah, a good 25 years.
Yep.
And my mainly adult cinematic life. So you mentioned something coming right out of the film about the way it was shot. Is
yes. Oh my God, yes.
Gorgeously shot by cinematographer Josie Deshays, who shot The Beast, which I haven't seen yet.
I really enjoyed The Beast. Oh my God, that has to be on I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I've actually been obsessed with that film since I saw it, and I keep wanting you to watch it. Now, actually, I think one of the things I liked about The Beast was the cinematography as well. It feels like 4 films in one. It's crazy. You'll understand that when you see it. And Urchin does a lot of really interesting things. in this kind of film, you would expect there to be less you would expect it to be more realistic, as you say, kind of gritty. But there are times when it verges into dreaminess. But the kind of dream that is kind of dips with regularity into being a nightmare. The color palette sometimes changes completely. There's scenes in a bathroom where the color of the image is entirely blue. There's a scene where it's entirely green. And I thought, wow, it's not spoon feeding you anything. It's not forcing the audience to do anything. It simply is, and it's enjoying you, like letting you enjoy that. And there's also some interspliced scenes of Mike standing in this kind of weird cave in nature. It's never explained. And I was like, I love this. We don't know whether this is maybe an earlier time in his life when he was happy and he's remembering something from childhood, or this is a dream he's having, or whatever it is. But I love having those, even as you're watching this guy go through this journey, you don't necessarily know him. You don't know everything about him. You know some of his struggles. You do not know all of them. You do not have access to his complete inner life, because how can you? Nothing can ever be boiled down to that. And I thought, like, what did you think of those things?
The cinematography is beautiful. The surrealist, intersliced sequences are there to sort of add this like moody, dreamy edge of, it's almost like this other world that he could be escaping to, wishing for, lost in. So that's the sense I got from that. And yeah, you always have to be careful with adding in surrealist touches of like, does it go overboard? But I liked it often when they did it here. And then there's a figure of a lady playing a violin who, it's almost like, is she a demon, an angel? He's sort of like in and out of this world, really, disconnected from it. And finally, yeah, his performance, I know you said it was amazing. Frank Dillon is, he needs to be nominated for an Oscar, if that means anything nowadays.
It doesn't. Unfortunately.
He needs to be nominated for something.
Yeah. A BAFTA. Or something like that.
It is a really uncomfortable, brilliant performance, heartbreaking. And the film, that's kind of what I took away from it. It's heartbreaking, but in a really understated way. It sat with me, for days.
I think I'm going to be thinking about this one for quite a while. Yeah. So if you haven't seen Urchin yet, it's probably playing in limited release at theaters. But my God, go out of your way. Go and see it. You will not regret it. So last night we saw a film called I Swear. This was a comedy biopic written and directed by Kirk Jones, who first directed Waking Ned back in 1998. My God, last century. And who went on to direct 2005's Nanny McPhee, a film I have yet to see, even though I know it's really popular, as well as My Big Fat Greek Wedding, amongst others, so you will have probably seen something that he's done. It stars Robert Aramayo, who you may recognise as playing young Elrond in the Rings of Power TV show, as well as young Ned Stark in Game of Thrones, through, as I recall, mainly flashbacks to the Tower of Joy. Shout out to my boy Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. Aramayo plays our Scottish main character, John Davidson, who is eventually diagnosed with Tourette's, but who suffers kind of in ignorance as a young teenager from uncontrollable verbal and physical tics, including swearing and spitting, much to the horror of his friends and his teachers. The teachers particularly responding with some violence that was really ordinary in that time. Now, John grows up in Galashiels, in a southern area of the country known as the Scottish Borders. The 1980s are not kind to him. He seems different and quote-unquote mad. He gets bullied by his classmates, driving him to depression, worsening his anxiety, and of course his tics get worse under pressure. And when we fast forward to adult John, we get to see his relationship with his mother, super tense, and his better relationship with his friend's mum, Dottie, who takes him under her wing and helps him find a job and a purpose in life. Now, I'll just do a little bit about the characters and then we'll go over to our resident doctor for some information here. Now, Arameo does a really good Scottish accent the whole time. I was waiting for him to slip, he didn't slip, and I'm really harsh about this kind of thing, so well done to Robert Arameo. Maxine Peake, who I have loved since she was Bubble in the 1998 TV show Dinner Ladies, and who's been in just a myriad of incredible works, including a really horrible episode of Black Mirror. She has an unfortunately exceedingly spotty accent in this. You can hear her English coming through a fair bit. Her acting is obviously excellent as always, so we can kind of ignore that. And to be fair, a Scottish accent is not easy to nail. So fair enough. Shirley Henderson of Trainspotting and Moaning Myrtle fame. How quickly we forget she was also one of Bridget Jones's friends alongside Sally Phillips in Bridget Jones's Diary. Plays John's mum, who is cold and stern and not handling the situation well at all. And Peter Mullen plays Tommy, who runs a local community centre and gives John a job. If you're Scottish, or you've seen any British films for like the last 2 decades, maybe even 3, you will recognise Mullen. He has been in everything.
I recognise him.
Braveheart, Shallow Grave, Trainspotting, Warhorse, like just a whole bunch of stuff. He is like consistently Scottish man in these things. Right. Tell us about Tourette's, Dr. Abraham.
Me speaking on Tourette's as a psychiatrist, yeah, you think I'd be well versed in it, but it's not something I've encountered for years. Mm-hmm. You will probably see it more as someone who works in like adolescent and child psychiatry. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting about Tourette's is, like other psychiatric disorders, its etiology is not like completely understood. So it's a hyperkinetic movement disorder, and it involves these motor or vocal tics, right, that are like movements or sounds mm-hmm. that are preceded by this like premonitory urge, right, that like builds and builds, which they describe in the film, until it's almost involuntarily you have to basically enact mm-hmm. the tic.
It's a compulsion.
Yeah, exactly, mm-hmm. with a very strong neurological drive. So the theory is that it's related to abnormal neural pathways and dopamine issues, mm-hmm. essentially, if we summarize it. Now, this is not something they, especially in his childhood, seem to understand in the film. It was seen in the film as, which was really, we were just like, oh my God.
I mean, yeah, the mental health was not there.
The mental health was not there.
It was not there.
So this is an involuntary compulsive disorder that they were misunderstanding mm-hmm. as a child misbehaving for attention, mm-hmm. which is just awful, but probably realistic.
Yeah, I mean, the ignorance was rife. You know, you just didn't know about any of those things. And of course, it surprises me that his parents never seemed to take him to the doctor or never tried to learn anything when it continued. As in, like, hey, maybe we should check that he's not ill or something, but, you know.
There was a time jump where, I guess at some point, since his life was falling apart, mm-hmm. he then did end up on antipsychotics, mm-hmm. which is still used for tic treatment, mm-hmm. although there are some other medications we'll use now.
So one of the interesting things about this disorder is the echolalia, which is the repetition of words and phrases that you've just heard somebody else say. I believe there's like parallelia where you see your own thing, but like you see that a lot in this film, and it's often used to comedic effect, often to the complete humiliation, embarrassment of John, but to the absolute giggles of this mostly Scottish audience that were around us who were having a really good time. There's a particularly good one to begin with, that we don't want to spoil for you, but it's deeply unfortunate for this guy, but man, is it sometimes funny. And he does say, like, when you see little bits of him in the documentary and kind of the credits and things, he does say, like, I have to laugh at myself sometimes because what else can you do? And sometimes it is funny. You have to acknowledge that sometimes it can be unintentionally funny, even when it's awful and I can't control it.
I don't remember that bit. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, at the very end they mm-hmm. had that.
So what did you think about the film overall?
I think it's a crowd pleaser. It's a really moving story of trials and tribulations and overcoming really dire circumstances in life. So the fact that, like, I would say especially strong in the emergence of his tics and seeing how people react and how it just fucks his life mm-hmm. up. Excuse my language. It really is heartbreaking. And seeing him sort of go from this really, like, happy, doing well, socially adjusted teenager to still being the same person, but being rejected by everyone around him
Yeah.
is really heartbreaking. And I will say, like, it's a really inspiring story. Obviously stories like this can veer into like sentimentality a bit. So I think it probably does that like a touch. And I would love to have gotten to know him as a person outside of like you're just going through tics and suffering. But I do think you get a sense of his personality and like his humor and his sweetness, which I appreciated. The performance was all around. Performances all around were really great. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's these are quite seasoned actors. And Aramio has been in some things, but to come up against quite established British actors and to really nail it and to bring the kind of pathos and sensitivity to the character that he did, I thought was excellent. Yeah, so Aramio has, he's been great in the things that he's been in, but I do think that this is a new level of acting that we're seeing from him. This is something, and way past the accent, which of course, as I said, he nailed. I felt really immersed in him. I really believed him as this person. I could see all of the emotions crossing his face. He doesn't often talk about the things. He's quite stoic. Whenever someone, asks him how he is, he just immediately replies that he's fine. He's very, like, keen to repress anything and to just try to be as quote unquote normal as possible, despite the fact that it's not. And it takes him quite a while to become less guarded, to open up. And I thought that was a really beautiful thing to see. Now, obviously, we've been burned by the salt path, so you always want to come at these things with a grain of salt and a slightly critical eye. But it does seem like John Davison has been doing good works to raise awareness for Tourette's for a few decades now.
Which he won an MBE for.
Yes, fantastic. And so, I think that's really great. And as they say in the film, the problem is not that he has Tourette's, the problem is that not enough people know about Tourette's. And so I think you're getting to see like the spread of awareness now is much more so than it was kind of 40, 50 years ago. You've probably heard of it from a TV show or in the news or something. It's not like this unknown thing that you don't know what it is. So, hopefully that awareness continues to spread and people who suffer from this disorder can continue to get the help that they need.
Yeah, definitely. And just a final point about the idea of like someone neurotypical versus a neurodiverse broad label. But I think the film does, you want to find this balance of acknowledging that his disability is a disability and it really negatively impacts his life. But then how much are they leaning into, the idea of like, oh, could he be improving and not having as many tics?
I did think about that as well.
Well, this is who he is. So that's always a tough balance to find with these kinds of stories.
That's funny you say that because as soon as the credits rolled, was my first thought was like, oh, but we're not necessarily thinking about fixing him, but we're allowing him, if he desires it, which he clearly does, a chance to be able to kind of medically dial down the tics and stuff in order to allow him to live his life less impeded. And if he wants to do that, I think that's an individual choice. I don't think that should ever be forced on him, but I think that's
exactly.
I think giving individuals the choice to be able to dial down certain things that impact them negatively is a good thing, as long as they are making that choice for themselves.